Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Kerry and it's been a little while since I have ranked my recent purchases. I have accrued over 20 palettes that I haven't yet ranked, which is a little bit naughty of me. I'm going to rank them today. I'm going to try and whittle through them because there are so many of them, and I'm going to talk you through why I've put them in the positions that I put them in. Sometimes it's just about the colour stories, sometimes it's about performance, sometimes it's about the packaging. So if that's of interest to you, please stick around and don't forget to subscribe. Now this makeup look I did film for my patrons and members. That video will be going up for them shortly. It was penguin themed, which one of my patrons did pick because she won one of my Patreon competitions. So look out for that if you are a patron or member. Let's dive into this ranking. Where do I begin? Okay, some of this ranking was harder to rank than others. How many times can I say rank? Some of it was pretty easy, like the bottom few I kind of knew. The top few I kind of knew. It was sort of in the middle and the in-betweeny bits that was a little bit more difficult. So let's dive straight in. At the very bottom, unfortunately, is the Sheglam Corpse Bride palette. I did pick up this whole collection when it dropped for Halloween. I love anything Corpse Bride related. I wasn't as keen on the Sheglam formula the last time I tried it, but I thought, do you know what, I'm going to give it a go. It's a collab, maybe it'll be a bit better. This is what the packaging looks like. It is very lacy on the front, which is beautiful, but makeup lovers, you know, trying to keep this type of packaging clean in a makeup room, not the best. But that's not why I ranked it this low. I ranked it this low because it's a very, very cool tone palette. And I kind of think there's only so many things you can do with this. There's only so many ways you can go. I have got videos on all of these palettes, testing them out if you want to check out my thoughts, swatches for palettes, things like that. So please do check back on my channel if you're interested in any of that. But I mean, it wasn't as bad quality as what I remember from trying previous Sheglam palettes. However, like I say, it's not my favourite formula. It is kind of a one-trick pony, but I mean, you know that when you're getting it because you can see the colour story. I am not sad that I picked it up because it is Corpse Bride. I do like the theming. I am a sucker for a collab, which you may notice in this little ranking that I'm going to be doing. But yes, something had to come last, and this is that something. Then we have Makeup Revolution and the Grinch palette. It's fluffy, it's Grinch themed, again, a collab. I'm a sucker, I can't help it. I had to pick this up. Look at the packaging. It is so fluffy and cute. And I wasn't disappointed with this, to be honest. I was actually really impressed with the look that I came up with this. The only reason it's ranking lower down is because it's not my favourite formula and there are only 3 mattes that run across the middle diagonally. The rest of them are shimmers, and not all of the shimmers are easy to work with, which was a little bit annoying, to be honest. Some of them were very difficult to pick up, even on my finger, let alone a brush. But overall, I do think I don't regret picking it up, and I think if you are interested in grabbing this, if it is still around, I don't think it's a bad palette, it's just not my favourite. Again, another collab, Makeup Revolution and Beetlejuice. Stop judging me, I can see you with your judgy eyes. So this one, obviously the packaging drew me in, it's Beetlejuice themed, it opens like this, which is fantastic. I love the colour story inside. I absolutely love the way they've designed this palette, the way it opens, the stripes. It's so cute. And all of the little pans are little beetles. One of them looks like it's got hair pan already, which is this purple here. I have swatched all of this, which was very difficult because the pan sizes are quite small, and to get my finger in with nails this long was quite a challenge. But I mean, some shades work better than others with this, I would say. I don't think it's the worst formula, but some definitely perform better than others. I do think it's a nice selection of colours. I do think it fits the theme beautifully. And again, I really like the look that I came up with when I used this palette. Then we have one of my favourite indie brands, and it pains me to put this palette so low, but compared to the other things in the ranking, I have no choice. This is the Nomad Cosmetics Santa's Village palette. That's the one. It was the limited edition palette for Christmas for 2022, and you can't get this anymore. This had mixed reviews, and the looks that I did with this palette, did I do 2 looks with this? I believe that I did. Did I do 2? I can't remember now. I've slept since then. It's a different year. The mattes in here are the same amazing quality that Nomad always put out, and I absolutely love Nomad. They're an amazing indie brand based in the US. They're fantastic. I've got numerous videos on my channel using their palettes, but this one, for me, shimmer wise, normally their shimmers knock it out of the pack. These are a little bit different. They are formed a little bit differently. They are supposed to be on the toppery side. However, they are quite difficult to pick up on a brush, with a finger, sponge tip applicator, whatever you're trying to pick them up with. They are very hard pressed in the pan. It's very difficult to get payoff on the eye. They are beautiful. They are stunning. They are reflective and sort of duochromy and shifty, but to actually work with them, it takes a little bit more effort, which is why it's ranking lower down. I personally really like the colour story of this palette. I like what they did. I like the theming. I just think that the shimmers could have been a little bit easier to work with, and then this would have ranked so much higher. Then we have a more recent purchase. This is the P. Louise, what is this one called? Aligning My Future palette. She came out with 2 palettes for Black Friday. I picked up the predominantly pastel one. I did do 2 looks with this palette and reviewed it. I have to say, I knew what I was getting myself into because it's just pastels. Okay, that's the one half of it. On this side, it does look like a book. It does have a working lock on it and it does light up. Very over the top and very dramatic. I know, and I quite like that with packaging. However, I will say this one is big and bulky and it's not the best to store. This is the reason I bought the palette for this side. But the reason this is ranking so low down really is just because it's a pastel palette. And how often am I going to reach for a big bulky pastel palette? I'm not sad that I picked it up. I knew what I was getting when I was purchasing it, but compared to the other things that are coming up, it had to rank here. Not a bad formula, quite pretty. Check out the video if you're interested in the swatches and eye looks I did with this. But yeah, it had to come somewhere. Then we have another collab. This is the Makeup Revolution and Coraline collab. Coraline is one of my absolute favourite films. It is one of the only films that I can watch back to back nearly every night if my husband and daughter would let me. I love it with a passion. So when Makeup Revolution came out with the Coraline collection, I needed it all. I do have a video on the whole collection, and this is the bigger palette. This is the one that looks like a button for the button eyes in the film, and it slides up like this, and this is the colour story inside, and I really like the colour story. I don't know if it's fully Coraline-esque. I would have liked to have seen some different colours in there maybe that relate to the film a little bit better, but again, with Makeup Revolution, they have a very hit or miss formula. Some of the shades in this are amazing, some not so great, not so pigmented, don't translate on the eye like they are in the pan. So I couldn't rank it any higher, but I do like the way that I mean, look, it's not the easiest to store. I do keep the little box for it so that I can actually stand it up and it's not rolling all over the place. And I do quite like that it's a button and that it slides up like this. Now, normally I wouldn't, but because it's Coraline themed, I quite like that. But yeah, the formula for me, unfortunately, is just not good enough in the entire palette. Like I say, some shades are nice, some shades take a little bit more work. Okay, a lot of people are going to be surprised by the next one unless you watched my video on this palette. This is the Colourpop All Hallows Eve palette from the Hocus Pocus 2 collection. Look, the artwork's stunning. I love Hocus Pocus. I was so excited when the new film was coming out. I haven't got the other Hocus Pocus palettes from Colourpop. I didn't want to pick those up because the colour stories didn't speak to me as much as this palette. When I saw this one was releasing, I was like, yes, that is the one for me. I'm so glad I waited. This is definitely the one that I want to pick up. In general, I love Colourpop's formula. However, this palette just did not live up to my expectations. So many people love it, and that's fine. We all have different preferences, but for me, it's a big disappointment, and mainly because of this shade called Wicked Ways. Now, I know that Colourpop do have some inconsistencies in their formulas and in their palettes, so other people might swatch this and think it's amazing. For me, mine is extremely hard pressed. It's very difficult to even pick up on the finger, let alone put on the eye. It is so infuriating because that shade is one of the ones I absolutely loved in this palette. There are neutrals in here, which for me, I mean, you could definitely have left out the neutrals. I quite like the fact that we've got the rows here with the different, what's the word? Monochrome rows, so you can sort of stick to one row if you wanted to. Overall, I think it's a really pretty palette, and generally, if the quality had been what I was used to from Colourpop, this would have ranked so much higher, but yeah, it was so disappointing. Then we have 2 palettes from Beauty Bay. They are here, and these are called, hold on, what is this called? The Nebulous Secret and the Douche Romance. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, unfortunately, because my French is not the best. This is a collab between Beauty Bay and a French influencer, I believe, called Crawly. I'm sorry also if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I did do a look with these 2 palettes, and I do love the Beauty Bay formula, I have to say. The only reason that these 2 palettes are ranking lower down is because they are on the smaller side. The colour stories, can't open this one. The colour story of the pink and blue purple side isn't something I typically reach for. This one is something I would typically reach for, even though it's on the darker side, but this reminds me too much of the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette that they released very close to releasing this collection. So it's a bit of a strange one, but I really like the formula, absolutely nothing wrong with it. I'm just ranking them here. Then we have the other Coraline palette from Makeup Revolution. They did come out with this one as well. I don't know what this is called because they didn't put the name on it. Well done, Makeup Revolution, you're smashing it here. Like, I'm assuming it's called The Door or something like that because it's got the picture of the door on it. Like, you're doing a collab, you haven't put the name on the palette. But inside, again, absolutely amazing how they have put this together. They have thought of the film and tried to incorporate it really well. I do appreciate that. I like the colour story, I like the shade names, I like the little key indentations in the pans. We do have, how many mattes are in this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mattes in this. So definitely workable for me. I am a matte lover and I really did like the look I came up with this, and I feel like the quality of this one is definitely better than the quality of the Big Button one that came previously in this ranking. So yeah. Cute little palette. Then I got the Unearlthly Cosmetics Halloween mystery box, and in that came 3 eyeshadow palettes. Now, Unearlthly Cosmetics, an indie brand in the US, I tend to pick up a lot from them even though it's very expensive shipping and the longest wait for delivery I've ever had from any brand ever. So be prepared for that if you're going to order from them and you're not in the US. But I don't know, I was expecting whatever type of eyeshadow was in that box to be a little bit better than it actually is. Which pains me to say, but I don't think this is the same, exact same as what I'm used to for Unearthly. I don't know if I'm the only person in the world that feels that way, but that is just my personal preference. This is the Creepy Crawly palette, it's the green one. Like I say, I do have a video on these. Super pretty colour stories. I like that we've got some nice little quads. I like that we've got a shimmer in each one of them. And then we have the Thirst. The purple one was called Chilling, just in case I didn't tell you. These aren't currently available to buy separately. They were exclusive to the mystery box. I hope they stay that way. Otherwise, it's a bit of a waste for the people that have spent all the money on the mystery box. They could have just waited and just picked out the things they wanted. That's just my feelings personally, but I don't know. I wasn't as blown away by this formula as I thought I was going to be. But they're nice. They're not a bad formula. They are good. It's just not as astronomically good as some of the other Unearthly palettes that I've got. Do you know what I mean? Then we have the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette. Oh, such good quality from Beauty Bay, especially for the price. It amazes me how Beauty Bay can do the things that they do. The reason this doesn't rank higher is just because of the colour story, I think, which is strange for me because I love purples, I love greens, I love depth. We do have a variety of different shimmer textures in here and formulas. I think the pigmentation is beautiful. I don't know why this doesn't inspire me as much as I thought it was going to, and I don't reach for it an awful lot. 2 random browns in here as well. I'm a bit like, what? Yeah, I do really like their limited edition palettes in general. I have got a Beauty Bay playlist if you want to check out all of the Beauty Bay palettes that I've swatched, tested, played with, but yeah, this isn't my favourite Beauty Bay palette. Quality-wise, just as good as all the others, but colour story-wise, I don't know. Then we have the Colourpop Not a Box of Chocolates palette. Now this is amazing Colourpop quality. Like, they do have some different formulas, I'm sure, because that All Hallows Eve palette is definitely not the same quality as this one. This is stunning, and I'm not normally a neutral gal. However, there was something about this palette, I just can't put my finger on it, but when I saw this was releasing, I'm like, seriously? I can't stop thinking about that palette, and then my gorgeous friend sent it to me, and I was blown away. Look at the beautiful shades in this palette. So pigmented, like, tap off your brush, because these are the most pigmented browns I've ever worked with, but they're so rich and buttery and creamy and blendable and gorgeous and delicious. Did I mention I love this palette? But of course, it's not ranking higher because it is a predominantly brown palette, but that doesn't mean I don't love it any less, and if I was reaching for a palette for a neutral look, this is definitely the one. Then we have the Carnival 5 Interstellar. Now, I was a little bit disappointed with this because, again, it's another rainbow palette predominantly. We do have some greys in this one though, and the formula is really, really nice. I really do like the Be Perfect formula. It's a big palette. Have I got it all on screen? I have. It is stunning, I have to say, but the fact that I already own like almost all of the other carnivals, it's kind of like, it's not duping itself because these shades aren't in the other ones exactly, but they're so flipping similar that I'm just like, I do like that we have the greys and the cool tones here though. I definitely want to play around with just this side of the palette and create a look with those. I wasn't disappointed with anything that I used in this. I thought it was beautiful, although the different formula that they've got, the Milky Way, Orbit, Moonwalk, is that all of them? Was there only 3? They're like a pressed glitter, but a pressed glitter that you don't need to apply glitter glue for, if that makes sense. And I don't know how I feel about it yet. It's very, very putty-like. I don't find those the easiest to work with, but they look stunning on the lid. The mattes, again, amazing quality because, you know, it's a carnival palette. Then we have the Scooby-Doo and Glamlight palettes. Now, I'm not going to go through the horrific customer service that not only I received, but quite a few of my friends have received. And when I was talking about it in my video and on Instagram, a lot of people reached out to me and said they have also received ridiculously bad customer service from Glamlight. So do please bear that in mind if you're going to purchase from their website. Maybe try and find a different stockist of their palettes because I wouldn't recommend buying from their site, but their eyeshadows and their formulas are stunning. And these palettes are amazing. Amazing quality. I was really, really impressed with them. The colour stories are absolutely beautiful. This is the Creeps and Crawls palette. And this is what it looks like. The shimmers in this are spectacular. They are on the putty-like side, so if that's not something you're interested in, maybe you wouldn't like this, but we have so much depth in this one and delicious tones. Really, really amazing quality. Then we have the Referral Raggy palette, which is my favourite compared to the other one. I am sad that they don't have shade names on these 2 palettes, just because I think that would have been the cherry on the cake. It would have just added that extra something special. Instead, we do have one of these flimsy plastics with just numbers, which I think is a little bit of a shame, but I think the artwork on these, the theming, everything that's gone into them, beautiful. Stunning, amazing quality. Then we have Nomad Cosmetics. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I absolutely love Nomad Cosmetics, one of my favourite indie brands, so it did pain me to put one of their palettes so low, but now we have another one of their palettes. This is the Hudson Valley palette. Now, although this is more neutral leaning, it does have very bright pops of colour in this. Their mattes are spectacular, and I mean spectacular. I love working with them. Blendable and pigmented, buildable, absolutely delicious. One of the best formulas out there, in my opinion, especially for an indie brand. They're just absolutely smashing it. And we have 3 shimmers down the middle here, which I quite like because it's a more matte heavy palette. I am a matte girl, although I do love these shimmers. They are beautiful. I think I did a 2-look video with this, one sticking to a more greeny side and one with the sort of reddy oranges. I didn't think I was going to love this palette as much as I do. Like, I know I love Nomad's formula, but looking at it when I was seeing it online, I'm like, okay, it's not going to be my favourite Nomad palette because of the colour story. I'm much more a green lover, bright green in your face, colourful, anything bright, Technicolor type of thing. But actually, I reach for this palette quite a lot, and it's surprising me how much I want to use this. Blown away by this one. Such a good palette. Then we have the 2 palettes from Ace Beauté, the limited edition ones, the Aura and the Envy palette, which I reviewed recently. I actually thought I was going to prefer the Aura palette, considering I love green eyeshadow, just because the colour story is a little bit different. It's so curated and nice and aesthetically pleasing and a little bit different. It's not your average typical palette with your sort of berry tone, your purple, your mustardy tones. Absolutely stunning. However, when swatching them out, I did actually prefer the Envy palette. I feel like the duochrome that is in this is a lot stronger of a shift than the one in the Aura palette. And again, I do love green eyeshadow. I love blues. I think it's absolutely beautiful. You've got depth, you've got some light tones. The shimmers are spectacular. Love Ace Beauté. I think they're amazing. Now we're into the top 2, and I have to rank this second. This is so stunning. I would use this all year round, not just Halloween. This is the Batty Bean and Shroud Hallow Bean palette. This is the second one that she did with Shroud Cosmetics, another indie brand, and the colour story of this is so pretty. And this black flame shade is a spectacular multi-chrome. Like, it goes from sort of a greeny, goldy, purpley to a little bit of like black. It is amazing. You're not going to see. You are literally, there's no way that you're going to see how spectacular that is on camera, but let me tell you now, in person, absolutely amazing. I really like the colour story of this. I do think though that 2 of my shades are the wrong way around. Afterlife and Woodsboro. A few of my friends had the same thing when they ordered, so I'm not sure if there was just a batch that had those 2 shades in the wrong place or not, but I just thought that I'd point that out. The mattes are beautiful. A lot of people have said they don't find this colour story cohesive and easy to work with. I don't have that problem with this palette. These tones are my tones. And then on top spot, this was gifted to me in PR. All the rest of the things I did by myself. If I hadn't have received this in PR, I would have been buying this 1,000,000%. Let me tell you now, this is the Spooked Gourmande Girls and Doodles by the Bunny collab. I really like Gourmande Girls, but I feel like the more that I've been purchasing from them and receiving in PR, every time that there's a new palette released, they have got a little bit better with their formula or their colour story or their packaging. It just keeps improving, and that is what I love to see from a brand. And then on the inside, this is what it looks like. Like I say, I definitely would have picked this up colour story wise if this hadn't have been gifted to me, because it's absolutely stunning. I've got a video on this where I do all the swatches and 3 looks. I'm literally obsessed with this palette. This is an all year round palette for me. I don't select these tones just sort of fall Halloween time. I think it's amazing. I know the packaging is spooked and Halloweeny, but the black is so pigmented and lovely. I love the fact that we've got so many different, we've got normal shimmers and metallics, but we've also got a multi-chrome and duochrome in here. Like, every single review I've watched on this, people have been falling head over heels in love with it, and I don't blame them because I feel exactly the same. I do have a code with Gourmande. I will leave it in the description box if you're interested in picking anything up from them. There is a restock of this palette coming, I believe sort of March time, and then there is going to be another palette launching springtime between Gourmande Girls and Doodles by the Bunny, and I can't wait for that. I'm so excited. So guys, that is my ranking for today. I feel like I put them in the order I wanted to put them in. I feel like I ranked them how I feel about them. Is there anything you're surprised at in this ranking, or was you expecting this type of ranking from me? I really need to keep on top of my rankings because that was a real long ranking. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I did try and whittle through it quite quickly. But yeah, let me know what you think. Have you picked up any of these palettes? Would you rank them higher or lower? Do you feel the same as me? Please do let me know. Everything that I'm wearing on my face will be linked in the description box down below, as well as my socials and my Patreon group and my YouTube membership. And hopefully guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!